SourceFedNerd Movie Club, it's me, Jenny, aka ClassyLibrarian, and this week's movie was Event Horizon, which is by far the best directed and scariest horror film I have ever watched. I was really surprised in a way to find out this was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, because although I enjoy a lot of his films, the Resident Evil series and the Mortal Kombat films in particular, they are what I'd call as guilty pleasures, because they're not the best directed, they're not the best put together films. And this film is just so well directed, the way that the camera movements are used, the use of slow motion, of fast cutting, all of the way that the visuals change between sets and between environments and between worlds in a way, are just so well done. The editing for this is really well done because you've got to get the jump scares in. So I was genuinely surprised that this was just so well directed. I really like the sound editing for this film. The music's effective in and off again, but just the overall sound design is brilliant in this film, because you've got to have the sound design correct in order to get that sense of foreboding in a horror film. You've got to get sort of visual and kind of oral cues in order to kind of get an idea of the atmosphere of the film. And there's some really good scary noises, scary editing, where you're really on edge because you're not exactly sure how the environment's working. I found that really, really well done, and it's particularly effective when it's a space film because you get the silence and then you get the sound, and it just works so well together. I've got to give immense props to the production people on this film, because the way that the sets and everything are designed and the visual themes that run throughout this film are just brilliant. It was one of my favourite things. When I watch a scary film, I look at all the details to try and counteract the fear. So there are things that I noticed, like there's a lot of eye themes throughout this. The cloud pattern looks like an eye. The hull of the Event Horizon looks like an eye. There's shots where it's like symmetrical sets where they have two eye-like shapes. There's the two oval desks in the Event Horizon that from above look like an eye. The heart of the ship, when it spirals, it sometimes looks like an eye. So it feels like whenever you're on the Event Horizon you're being watched, which perfectly counteracts all of these characters that lose their eyes through various means, which is very off-putting because of course eyes are very important to how you judge a character, and when they have no eyes at all it's very scary because you just don't know what to look at and what they can see. So that was a really good visual sort of theme that ran throughout. There's, as I said, really subtle ones and some really very noticeable ones. Other production things which I loved, because it's a horror film you can't go into a lot of depth with things like characters. So even though I really do like the acting was good, the characters, the way that they've structured the character development is there isn't really a set protagonist, so you're not sure who to follow because one of the characters that you get put directly into the head of is one of the villains, and then there's the one who survives who's not traditionally been the hero throughout the rest of the film. So it's really interesting to find how the characters develop, but because it's a horror film it has that structure that you know some people are going to be cannon fodder, and you don't really have time to exposition your way into the characters. So there's a lot of really good visual stuff that goes on, like jewellery and costumes and tattoos, and the way that like the consoles are set up where it seems like teddy bears, and in the ship that they use to get to the Event Horizon there's lockers around the edge of the conference room, which each have a character's name and then some possessions, and it tells you so much about the characters without having to do needless exposition, and it's just so well done and so very interesting, and I was really entertained by that. There's also things like really small details, like the medic having certain equipment all around his jacket, and a lot of the American flags have extra stars on them, which shows you that the time period is progressed from modern day. And I found that so visually interesting. It's just amazingly well done because it adds so much depth, and all the sets feel very lived in and very real, and so it gives you this grounding so that when things get scary you really feel like you know the characters and you know this world. So I really, really enjoyed that. I think, as I said, the acting, the direction, the writing for this was really well done. There's a lot of really nice hell-like references and themes that are brought in very early. As I said, with all of the visuals of the eyes, the "do you see me" speech at the end of the film is really very effective. Just generally a really great horror film. I would not recommend watching this if you are scaredy like me. I am scared. If you want to see a reaction video, I'll put a link somewhere around here of me watching. It's horrible lighting. I was filming it on my web camera in the dark. but there's lots of me being terrified by jump cuts, and there's a point where I nearly cry. I'm so scared. That gives you a pointer to how scary this film is. I think the visual effects, the prosthetics, everything in this film works so well just to give you that creepy atmosphere that meant that I didn't get to sleep till 2 o'clock in the morning last night. And that's about it really. Hello to my new subscribers, it's lovely to see you. I'm sorry this video is so long, it's usually not this long or in depth. I am happy to have you here. Please comment down below if you are new or if you have any thoughts on this film or anything you want to say. I always try and reply to every single comment. I will see you guys next week.